in for this particular team.
Yeah, so they're only going to let him stand in for 4FC, which is a weird rule, I guess. I don't know exactly why that's the way it works. Once they're off of a team, they're allowed to stand in for one other team.
5 seconds
I don't.
remaining.
I guess that might be the rules in general with stand-ins for Starlighter. If you stand in for a team, you're not allowed to stand in for other teams after that point.
Maybe.
I guess that kind of makes sense. That there's not like
Yeah.
mercenary that's like playing for tons
Every
of teams.
team.
Yeah.
Imagine if it was somebody really good too, like back when Black was standing in for everybody, just like carrying every team to victory, and it's like, Well,
Yeah.
this was the season of X stand-in.
Yeah, it was definitely that was kind of a sketchy time in Dota when we had some of the players that were not really with a team yet, and they were kind of standing in all over the place,
Right.
like Black, like you mentioned. But yeah, we're moving on this draft. We see Enchantress actually picked up now, so Aki's going to get a jungler regardless of the Chen first man, and it's going to be in the form of the Enchantress this particular game. So you're thinking that's going to be their support duo, the Enchantress and the Abaddon?
Yeah, I think it could be very strong. You can even put Aphotic Shield on creeps if you want to try to charge them forward a little bit more. I think this is pretty strong. Enchantress, very, very viable hero, of course. Good substitute for Chen. Aki does have a lower win rate with Enchantress than he does with Chen. But when I say lower win rate in the context of Alliance, we're talking about, like, I don't know, maybe 70% versus 85% or something. We're in the stratosphere no matter what. And this lineup does give them a good, healthy amount of push at every stage of the game. Early on, Enchantress is able to provide tremendous pressure onto towers. Nature's Prophet later on will be able to do a lot of split pushing. And at all stages, I think Abaddon is able to help that push out by really preventing an easy punish on it.
Yeah, certainly it's kind of difficult. Alright, so Phantom Assassin picked up mid-train of thought, and they're going to go with PA. This is not a hero we see picked up a lot. Lions are one of the teams that actually do run the PA from time to time, but I feel like it was most of the time with Wisp. I guess they started transitioning away from that a little bit as they got used to, I guess Loda kind of developed a taste for Phantom Assassin, really enjoyed playing her, because we've seen her without Wisp a few times.
Right. PA actually had this brief period of extreme fashionableness after Alliance really just showed how effective the hero could be. Even without Wisp, a lot of some Chinese teams like Rising Stars were running Phantom Assassin. It's a hero that honestly is underrated to some extent. Her capacity to succeed without a good amount of farm is extremely limited, but maybe looking at the draft from 4FC, they felt maybe 4FC can't really layer that much pressure on. I don't know how true that is. I think Weaver Rubik Visage is very capable of putting a lot of pressure on this Phantom Assassin, but as long as she gets a little bit of space, and you go sort of a solid mid-game build-out that isn't too expensive, like Phase Drums, and then with the option of Vlad's or Basher from that, you can actually do extremely well. If you do go the Vlad's route, you can Roche similarly to the AM Vlad's route. And PA has the unique ability of winning entire games with one DD rune, because if you pick a team fight afterwards. Which is pretty cool. It's pretty cool having a hero who, if you get a particular rune, you can just win an entire game. And it's not going to be very easy to just catch her out with the Abaddon available to provide a lot of healing and debuff removing backup.
Yeah, definitely. We saw the power of just DD runes yesterday, where there were a couple big ganks that were able to get off. But when it comes to a hero like Phantom Assassin, where she has that coup de grace ability to just do so much damage, with that DD rune, it's insane. She's going to crit someone, and they're just going to die. So yeah, you can completely turn this tide of a game. You can come from behind and win a game with something like that. And okay, that's not what I wasn't.
Well, we've gone off script, definitely. I like it. I mean, Alliance, they're a team with a huge fan base, but they've also come under a lot of criticism for what people perceive as their. It's actually kind of funny. I feel like the main argument against Alliance is that they're tryhards. Like, I've heard a lot of people complaining, like, oh, their drafts are too good. Like, and criticizing a professional team for their drafts being too good is a little chancy. But here we have a very interesting and unusual draft. The PA, even though Alliance runs it more than other As you mentioned, it's usually with Wisp. Abaddon is definitely a hero that they're experimenting with, and Pudge for S4. Hmm.
Yeah, I'm interested to see how it's going to work out. I can honestly say I've never seen S4 play Pudge. Um, I'm sure it's happened. I've just never seen it personally, and I'm looking forward to it. We're going to see a Razor pickup as the last pick for 4FC, so looks like they're probably going to just send that into the mid lane to face up against the Pudge. He can do quite a bit of physical damage when he starts stealing it, and that is one of Pudge's biggest weaknesses, particularly early on. He just doesn't have that armor. He's a hero that's all strength, and as a result, he has a high HP pool, but is real weak to physical damage.
Yeah. In the final reckoning, I don't really love the Rubik pick that much. I do think that the Pudge pick actually made the Rubik pick better, because at least now he can steal Hook. Before that, there was kind of slim pickings, really just Abaddon spells, which, because he's being played in a support role, aren't going to be that high level. Of course, it'll be very nice to take that borrowed time and put it on Weaver, but that was about the only use of the Rubik up until the point at which Pudge was picked. Now there's Hook. Yeah.
10 seconds remaining.
And I think the Razor mid is also a pretty strong pick. Razor, of course, we talked about this yesterday, has a much better win rate in games where Outworld Devourer is on the other side than when he's not. But 4FC have a very viable tri-core lineup here. Lone Druid, Razor, Weaver can all do a tremendous amount of damage and be aided by Visage and protected by Rubik.
Prepare for battle.
Shout out to Matrim, apparently. Where's Matrim at? He's not in this game.
Is he not?
No,
right. We agreed that Giftig is not Matrim. Right.
Alright, so we're going to go over the players I'll handle Alliance. We're going to be on the dire side for this particular game. We're going to have Admiral Bulldog playing Nature's Prophet, so it's one of the 3 heroes everyone says he plays. Mid lane, that's going to be S4. He's playing a completely different hero in the form of the Pudge.
Wow. 24-9 win rate for Pudge in this patch. Of course, quite a few times of those were Na'Vi, who don't tend to lose with Pudge, but that is an actually really excellent win rate. He's a hero that really changes the way that your game is played. Like, all of a sudden, you are playing Dota, but it's Pudge Dota, and it's quite different from the Dota you usually play. To the point where he's, especially when big LAN events roll around and the international, a hero that is completely ignored, and suddenly everybody's respect banning him, because it's like, well, we're not going to boot camp against a hero that we might see like 1 game out of every 100, but it's a hero who in that 1 game out of every 100 can have an absolutely tremendous impact.
Yeah, definitely. He's a high impact. He's kind of a high risk, high reward type hero. If you get a good start and you're able to land those hooks, he's huge impact. So we'll see how S4 handles him in this game. People say he's been practicing him recently, so maybe S4, this is a strategy they're going for. We are going to have Aki on the Enchantress, who's currently hanging out near the bottom rune. Loda's going to be up in that safe lane. He's going to be farming on the Phantom Assassin. And finally, we're going to have EGM playing the Abaddon, supporting him up in that top lane.
Alright. And looking towards 4FC, they are running an aggressive tri-lane. Giftig is on this Razor. He is supported by Karaki, the stand-in on Visage, and Stompa standing in on Rubik. And then in the middle, it'll be Blomberg on the Weaver, actually. He had started out on the Razor, but they executed a swap, so he's on Weaver now, going up against Pudge. Weaver-Pudge should be a perfectly okay matchup for Weaver. He's able to do a lot of harassment with Geminate once he picks it up. And in the bottom, Krilly on the Lone Druid will be facing Admiral Bulldog's world-famous Nature's Prophet. Grand Finals winning Nature's Prophet.
Yeah. So yeah, we're gonna see Bulldog playing against the Lone Druid instead of Bulldog playing the Lone Druid. But of course, his Nature's Prophet also was kind of what won them that biggest game, I guess. So definitely going to be pretty good matchup there. I think they'll both be able to get farm for the most part, and Bulldog will be the one that's really at risk of dying as levels start to come out on that Lone Druid.
Yeah. I think as for, even though this isn't a fantastic lane for Pudge, it's a pretty respectable one. Weaver doesn't really care about getting hooked unless there's a lot of detection available for Pudge to find out about it afterwards. Of course, the damage output of the hook is very annoying. Oh, nice dodge on the hook there. So you don't want to take the damage, but you don't just instantly die as a lot of heroes do.
Bottom tower is under attack.
Yeah, definitely. As long as you don't get taken by that hook, he should still be okay, I think. Even if he gets hit, just because he's going to be able to Shikuchi away. But he does take a lot of damage. He's got low HP pool, so as that hook gets up in levels, it can almost instantly kill him if he's even a little bit below max HP.
Yeah. And in the top lane, this is the 3v3. This is really the most important lane, I feel, for 4FC to win. It's fine for Lone Druid and Nature's Prophet to basically be even. It's fine for, actually, Krilly getting pressured a bit here. Ake is offensive jungling, so he's sent down. He might be able to kill the bear, I think. Yeah, I think this bear's dead. The Dark Troll Warlord can just toss an ensnare. No, they decided not to.
It, though. Yeah, I think they probably could have gotten it, but it looks like they just weren't really willing to go that aggressive on it. This aggressive jungling, though, is able to put quite a bit of pressure on Krilly. They might even be able to kill him off. They don't do necessarily that much damage, but if they have some treants up and just get the net off on him, it might be enough because he's a pretty squishy hero until he hits level 6.
I do think the other thing is Loda is not doing amazingly in the top lane, but not actually that poorly either. He's 7 for 0, and he is about halfway through level 3, so he's ahead on levels relative to the Razor. No surprise given the arrangement of the lanes. And yeah, actually, they don't feel like they can actually kill the Phantom Assassin. That's a big win for Phantom Assassin, not having to worry about any chance of getting killed. Now this is actually not the easiest lane in the world for Giftig, because Abaddon will be able to generate some pressure. PA, oh actually, here they go. They're going under tower. It'll be a kill.
Yeah, so Abaddon gonna get the first kill there, getting the last hit on Giftig. I don't know if they can just afford to leave him up here alone. It's pretty high risk for him to just get dove on this tower repeatedly. A Photic Shield is a great spell for diving that tower, and of course Phantom Assassin has that pretty crippling slow as well as the Blink Strike to get in there, so it seems kind of risky to me to try and rotate both of these supports down towards that bottom lane.
I think it's definitely risky. I'm surprised that they didn't just send one down. Maybe they felt that the Enchantress would be a little too strong if they didn't send both people to sort of pressure her out. And Ake, you can see that his response is essentially immediate. S4 is in a lot of trouble.
He's going to go down, it looks like.
Maybe.
Yeah, they're able to. They're trying to go on Blomberg, though. It looks like he's going to be able to get away. Nature's Prophet was thinking about teleporting in, but he's not going to be able to. So that's going to be a return kill. This time Weaver getting the solo kill on S4 in that mid lane.
Very well played by Blomberg there to get that kill. The haste rune certainly helped, but yeah, the ability to pressure, especially putting down those bugs to get that little bit of extra armor reduction and damage out, was very useful for him there. But yeah, Razor, who had very good farm early on, Giftig is really not going to be farming well from this point on. I don't even see him out farming Loda, and that's a big thing to give away.
Yeah, I mean, they committed to that aggressive tri-lane early because they were going to try and shut down Loda's farm, and I guess it felt like they weren't really succeeding anyway, so they backed out of it, and now they're just in this weird position where they're not really stopping anyone.
Oh, nice
great hook, but it's not going to lead to anything. Unfortunately,
just the damage, though.
Yeah, it's damage and it's harassing Blomberg. It's keeping him back. He's out of bottle chargers, so it looks like he's either going to have to get that crow sent to him right now, or it looks like he's actually going to just walk all the way back to base, so that's a lot of time wasted. And while that's going on, S4 gets this free lane to get some levels up, continue getting those points in his key spells. But once he hit Hook level 4, it has pretty good range. It does do quite a bit of damage, so Weaver's going to be...
It does amazing damage. It does half of Weaver's... So we talked about how it's not going to be the easiest thing to land Dismember, but 2 hooks will kill Weaver because of his pretty poor health pool.
Bulldog in the bottom lane, they're going in on him. He's going to get the teleport. It does manage to get the teleport out. For Krilly, unfortunately, only level 4, so there was no chance of a root proc to stop that. And Bulldog able to escape, but took a lot of damage.
He was sent back, but not the... 4FC not getting a kill there definitely cost them a lot. They have moved the 2 supports into the lane at least twice to try to get that kill, and in the end, all they get is Bulldog leaving and then coming directly back. And he is, because the supports have been coming into lane, he now has quite a favorable level situation against Krilly as well. He's almost level 6 versus just into level 5. And in the top, Loda's still ahead, I think, too. He's halfway through level 6 to... Actually, they've rotated Blomberg over, but Giftig, yeah, halfway through level 5. They actually moved the Razor into mid to guarantee him some easier levels and farm.
And Blomberg almost immediately died up here. He had to use time-lapse, and he's still only at about 200 HP.
And Giftig in trouble, man.
Yeah, it looks like he's going to be going down. And the hook for some damage, and then Enchantress able to finish it off with the right clicks from the Centaur Conqueror. Yeah, so another kill going the way of Alliance this time. Pudge able to get one in. EGM taking a lot of damage at the top lane. It looks like he's going to go down. Weaver able to finish that one off. Loda's up here as well, but he's just going to be able to back off. A little bit too much aggression coming out from them in the top lane.
I actually think if Loda had gone in, maybe they could have done that, but it felt like Loda was going back and EGM was staying in. But yeah, now that Loda has coup de grace, like all it needs to do is occasionally hit Weaver, and Weaver will be very pressured to just immediately time lapse based on one auto attack, not even like a spell.
Yeah, I mean that's what happened immediately when he ported up there. He got hit by the coup de grace, and then there was a time lapse immediately, and then the shield broke, and he went back down to basically no HP. So we were
Right.
struggling up there as well. Just a band has to be a little bit more careful. They have to be more, I guess, on the same page. Make sure that if one's committing, they both go in. Otherwise, if one gets caught out, a band can go down pretty quickly until he hits level 6.
I actually, the more I think about this draft from Alliance, the more I like it in response to what 4FC are putting out, because they have these heroes that are, in classic terms, survivable, but Alliance is able to deal a lot of damage that none of them can really deal with. So, Weaver, for instance, there's this Trixie Weaver build that he uses to try to survive, where he gets the Vitality Booster and Hood. Not actually very useful here, because the magic resist is not a big deal. Like, Razor, a hero who frequently just can go Pipe or Hood or something to give himself survivability, but Razor's base strength is horrible. Sorry, his base strength is fine, but his strength growth is really horrible. And Alliance have multiple sources of pure damage. They have the impetus from Enchantress that she just trained. They have the big pure damage from the meat hook of S4, and I mean even stuff like Stifling Dagger does pure. Not to mention, of course, Loda can crit for huge amounts.
Yeah, Stifling Dagger is kind of almost negligible damage in the grand scheme, but yeah, they have a lot of physical damage, pure damage rather, and they have multiple different types of damage with physical and magical as well. You can't just stack one thing and expect that's going to be okay here. Punch is able to do a ton of magic damage, but on the same token, PA is able to do a ton of physical damage. And then we have the pure as well, so it's kind of a difficult lineup to really build defensively against, and like you mentioned, all these heroes on the side of 4FC are heroes that we typically do see kind of go more defensive routes with the Razor and the Weaver.
Right. I mean, Stifling Dagger, for all that it doesn't do very much damage, it does an 8-second 1/7 of Weaver's health pool, so that's not nothing either.
Yeah, I guess that's true because Weaver is so particularly squishy.
Exactly.
That Stifling Dagger is a very powerful nuke.
I'm cherry picking a bit, but yeah. I mean, Loda, he's farming quite well. He is, and now considering the fact that he had 5 last hits at like 3 minutes, now it's 10 minutes and he has 50 last hits. He's completely, the pressure valve has been let off by 4FC, and Alliance is a team that apparently in professional play they have never beaten. I'm sure they've gotten a few scrim victories, but it's definitely foreboding to go up against a team which just seems to be toying with you in some respects with this draft, and it's still very strong. Yeah, Gifting's dead in this.
Gifting is not in a good spot. Just gonna go down. Punch able to get the last hit. Port comes in from Blomberg, but it's too late to really do anything. They drop a sentry. They might go on him. He has to be careful. There's no Dismember up though, and I don't know if they're gonna be able to do enough damage to really take him down.
Oh, actually, yeah, Blomberg, I thought that they had a Dark Troll and Snare available for him. There it finally is, and he may still go down. Nice, the last impetus, so not really worthwhile in the end to trade a Baden for Weaver.
Well, I think it's still probably worthwhile to get the Weaver down. Weaver was their highest farmer by quite a bit.
Oh, no, I mean for 4FC.
Oh, for 4FC, yeah, okay. I was like, I feel like that's probably a good trade for Alliance, but yeah, if
for sure.
4FC, it's probably Blomberg thought he'd be okay, and actually the ensnare from the Dark Troll was on cooldown. They used it to set up the kill on Giftig. So it still had a little bit of time left before they could use it, but yeah, it ends up being a trade that favors Alliance, definitely, and we just see kind of rotations all over the place. There's a ton of heroes from 4FC in this mid lane, and it doesn't really feel like they're doing much.
Really? Curly is in a lot of trouble, yeah. With that extra burst damage provided by the Aphotic Shield and the fact that S4 just walked up to Dismember when he still had the meat hook available for free extra pure damage afterwards, there's nobody on 4FC that doesn't just get blown up, so even though actually Admiral Bulldog has had a pretty quiet game, he spent a lot of time just making sure Curly didn't dominate the laning phase. Right now it doesn't really matter, and there's a lot of room for this Nature's Prophet to continue growing. Even if he wants a very late Midas, he could probably get it, and the team still has room for him to make that choice.
Yeah, we'll see if they end up going the Midas route or not. I kind of expect that he will. Particularly since he's getting closer and closer in terms of farming. He didn't really need to farm that heavily this game. Loda's doing a very good job, and of course S4 is now at a level where he can move around the map and put pressure on, so Bulldog doesn't necessarily need to hang out in that bottom lane and just prevent Crilly from pushing down the tower anymore.
Yeah.
He could start transitioning into that harder farming role if he wants to by heading into the jungle at this point.
Yeah, and he is going that Midas, so... Meanwhile, Razor gets picked off again. Bulldog TP's in. He could probably catch Stompa, yeah, because of phase boots, and we just talked in the stats about the phase boots choice, and it does give Nature's Prophet, even with not amazing levels and not amazing farm, that ability to just jump in and chase somebody, especially a support who's running away, sitting on brown boots. You really can just run and gun, and that gives them a tower as well. Loda's still farming with really no recourse, and Krilly's farming pretty well also, but yeah, Loda looks like he's going straight for the Vlads, would be my guess. Interesting that he chose Orb of Venom as well.
Yeah, Blomberg actually just sniped the Alliance's courier.
Nice.
I don't know where it died, but I saw the message come up that it died. So yeah, they end up getting the courier.
It's over here.
Yeah, I just don't know how it died, I guess. That's what I meant.
For Weaver Place.
Yeah, it's definitely
wasn't carrying anything.
So it's definitely good to get a tower kill, or a courier kill. It's a lot of gold to end up taking. And S4 is now camping in the mid lane. Looks like he wants to go on gifting, but he's gonna land the hook.
That was a really nice hook.
Stompa's there. He's gonna have to lift to break the dismember. It looks like gifting will be able to get away as a result of it. It was a really good hook. That was like max range on that hook, and next to a creep and everything, but you know, he gets away just because there's a support there. But that's all you really need to do with Pudge, is put the fear in them. Stop them from being able to farm these lanes because they're always afraid that you're around landing these hooks. And they always have to have these supports with them. That means the supports can't be doing more relevant things, trying to get like, maybe some items up of their own, stacking in the jungle and whatnot. They have to just kind of be around watching the carries farm, because there's always this chance that Razor's just going to die.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right, Kinez. It's just the fact that you basically have to use your supports as bodyguards, and you can't give them any space or room to operate unless you have amazing vision, which they have good vision, but nothing stellar. And of course, Alliance will be seeking to counter that with EGM still holding on to a Sentry Ward. And now Bulldog is starting to become, you know, a legitimate force. He picked up his Midas. He's already used it once. The second usage coming up in another 50 seconds. And he's got, with that tower kill, now all of a sudden he's got 1,200 gold. So Nature's Prophet is developing as a threat also. And Giftig, just Razor has to go back to Fountain because there's too much harassment potential. I don't know. I feel like 4FC, they do have this Tricore lineup. They are trying to build them all up. The issue is, I'm not sure they're actually getting more out of the map right now.
Yeah, it doesn't really feel like they're actually farming effectively at all. Particularly when you look at currently Enchantress is out farming Razor, and we have so in the top 5 there are 3 from Alliance, top 6 is 4 from Alliance. They're looking like they're definitely taking better advantage of the map, and they do have that kill lead as well. And all the while, Loda is just sitting up in this top lane. He hasn't left. He hasn't been really pressured that heavily yet as well, and he's leading on the net worth as a result of that.
Yeah, that's the main thing with Phantom Assassin. I mean, people are like, oh, well, you know, she's a hard carry, just attack her early. But Alliance have this lineup that generates so much tension early on, forcing 4FC back onto their side of the map and to play very defensively, that PA has almost no worries whatsoever, and even fewer worries after she and Nature's Prophet take down this top tier 1.
Yep, and it looks like this tower will be going down. Everyone from 4FC is kind of just walking towards it. They have, with Weaver in particular.
They found Giftig. He was hiding.
Oh, unfortunate. Now EGM's there, then the hook out the other way. Can they get the kill before the lift? The Ruig lift's going to be there. It looks like Giftig might be okay. And yeah, he's going to survive. S4 taking a lot of damage now. They're going for the little bit of the reversal. In the meantime, Lone George picked up a bad. And S4 down the cliff, hooks out Loda. Don't know if that's what he was playing. The stolen hook, though, gonna pull Loda back, and he blinks out. Taking some damage, though. Can they get the root is the question, and they do get the first hit entangle. Visage gets the last hit. Now S4 being chased down by Crilly on the Lone Druid. It looks like S4 is probably going down here as well. He throws out the hook. It's not going to land on anything, and he ends up going down. Blomberg on the Weaver going to get that last hit. So it's being a 3-for-1 trade. The Razor does go down, but they lose 2 of their cores and the support for it.
A very disorganized fight for Alliance. I mean, there's really no two ways about it. The Loda comes in, gets hooked out, he gets very low. The stolen hook was actually really excellent there. I mean, you mentioned the stolen hook was going to be a big deal. And yeah, losing Loda after all that free farm, not something they wanted to do. Not fatal by any stretch of the imagination. Pudge has the items he wants. He has Tread's Force Staff, so it's okay for him to die a time or two. And Loda, that'll only temporarily reduce his farm. He did go Helm of the Dominator. So he's going for this sort of later mind control creep, stack some ancients, have that lifesteal, and be able to sort of farm up further from there. It looks like Basher next for him, so... Basher's a pretty cool item for PA2, simply because her Phantom Strike guarantees really good attack speed, so you almost always get a Bash when you blink.
Yeah, it works very well with both her ultimate and the Phantom Strike. You just blink in, you get probably going to get a crit because of the attack speed, probably going to get a bash, and if they're locked in place long enough, you might even get another crit, and that's usually enough to start killing off these heroes, particularly the squishy supports, who only need a few hits to really finish off here. But we're going to see a lot of grouping up going on for 4FC once again. They're all currently down in their jungle. In the meantime, Alliance sitting on the other side of the river. Near the Roche pit, it looks like that's going to be the plan. Maybe 4FC haven't planned. Or where
they tried to hook S4. That would have been a very nice pickup if they could have hooked him.
Oh, with the stolen hook still?
Yeah.
Yeah, anytime you could get something with the stolen hook, it's pretty great. Hook steals are fantastic because you just don't necessarily expect it. The same way that Pudge, you always are aware of him. Sometimes you kind of forget, oh yeah, Rubik might have hook.
Right. And it looks like they're going to get the Roche, though. 4FC, I think they knew, but they just really can't do much about it. So, Loda picks up the Aegis. That's a very nice pickup for them. And they're just going to continue on from here. I mean, I don't really see right now 4FC being able to do much, especially because the Razor is very underfarmed. I mean, you just see... I think Giftig is moving towards... I feel like it's probably BKB, but I almost think... Well, no, he probably does need the BKB, but he also, at some point, somebody needs a Halberd, too.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to say if he's ever going to... you need the BKB in this game because there's quite a bit of magic damage that can come out, and you don't want to just die to Pudge repeatedly. But at the same time, if you don't get Halberd, you're going to just die to Phantom Slash repeatedly. It's very just difficult to really build defensively against this lineup. And Alliance, they built up that early lead, sitting at about 5k gold and experience right now. And that means they're 4C are playing behind, and they're playing defensively as a result of it.
Yeah. I mean, that Abaddon Pudge combo, like, AGM traveled with S4 a bit, that's a very strong combination. I mean, Pudge can trigger the Aphotic Shield with no effort by the other team, simply by putting Rot on while the shield is on. So it really ramps the burst damage you're able to do with that Hook Dismember combo if your Rot is also triggering one or even two Aphotic Shields. Not to mention, sure, Pudge takes damage, but Abaddon can Mistcoil that right up, or Mistcoil the target if they think they can bring it down quickly.
Yeah, certainly. It's a pretty powerful combination that we're seeing right here, just in terms of burst damage. Maybe not as seemingly broken as kind of with the Omni Knight Pudge combo, where you can rot and it doesn't do any damage to you. You just keep it on standing next to people.
It's similar, though.
It is, yeah. It's sort of the same idea. It's kind of similar. This is more of an aggressive, I guess, way, and the other way is a little more defensive. But yeah, it's definitely powerful, and we've seen it do a lot of physical damage. That's kind of what's been leading to this Razor getting melted constantly by the hooks coming out.
Yep. Krilly going for his just building out a Basher. He had about 3k gold. I think Basher's a nice pickup here. Stompa getting completely caught out by Ake and Bulldog. And actually, 4FC now with no Rubik, this tier 1 push is not going to be as easy as they thought. In fact, you see them pulling back. Basher for Lone Druid is nice, but actually his Basher will have less impact than Loda's Basher.
Oh, they didn't go for it. S4 lands a hook on Karake there, but he didn't commit to it. I don't know if he was just nervous because his team wasn't really that close by, or he was worried about 4C being nearby, but they do back off. And they're just kind of playing footsies with each other, but while this is going on, Loda pushed on a tier 2 in the bottom lane, just supported by EGM, so they're getting stalled out with their push with 4 heroes by only 3 heroes, and now they're forced to...
Look at him fighting Krilly. He gets the Bash proc, and he, I think, Entangle was removed by Aphotic, so Krilly just dies outright.
Yeah,
look how dangerous Loda is. He still has Aegis, too.
Stompa committed suicide?
He used Mistcoil.
Oh, okay. He stole Mistcoil and was able to use it, I guess. EGM's gonna go down. He also commits suicide. There's a lot of suicide going on in this game. And it looks like Loda's gonna be able to kill off Gifting here. Maybe. The stun's coming out from Visage, doing a lot of damage to Loda. Trying his best, but he is gonna go down. Razor able to get that last hit with some help from his Eye of the Storm, reducing her armor. So yeah, maybe a little overextension there. They end up killing off the Lone Druid, but they lose the Aegis, they lose The Phantom Assassin once again. They're gonna get the tier 2 bottom. It actually gets or mid. It gets denied by Blomberg. So good
And the
deny coming out
tower
from Weaver.
commits suicide. This is just what
Everything
is
is committing suicide this game. I don't know what's going on anymore.
Abaddon is a great hero for Dota TV epics because he triggers so many allied hero denials. Doubly so when you have Pudge, who triggers allied hero denials, and Rubik, who, if he steals Rot and if he steals Mistcoil, can also cause some allied hero denials as well. I mean, that was a pretty big dive, but it just goes to show how comfortable Alliance feel that they can do sort of clowny stuff like that. But S4, nice force staff, actually. Really good angle on that. Otherwise, he was in a little bit of trouble from Blomberg there. But you can just see how comfortable Alliance feel that they can dive up to the tier 3 without a care in the world and still manage to get some kills before Loda goes down.
Yeah, they're just playing very aggressively, and in 4FC they punish them in the end, but it takes quite some time, you're right, and I don't know, it's not looking particularly good when they're having trouble killing off just the Phantom Assassin with several of their heroes around, and not even until after they killed off 1.5 of their heroes.
Yeah, he could have gotten the Razor and the Lone Druid, which wouldn't be a fantastic trade, but it would have been pretty, like, he'd been fine with it. And all this Alliance sort of dilly-dallying and diving, all this is holding down 4FC's farm, even if they manage to get a kill or two here and there, and Bulldog has been completely unpunished this game. He has no deaths, he now has Shadow Blade and most of a Scythe of Ice, so he's only about 1,000 off from that. Suddenly Nature's Prophet becomes a threat, and that's probably one threat too many, because Razor... I mean, we mentioned the poor win rate with BKB. Like, generally when you have to go BKB first as Razor, it's because you're under the gun a lot, and it certainly doesn't help his damage or anything like that.
Yeah, and Racer, he never really feels like a hero that plays that well from behind. If you can play him aggressively and sort of just position yourself in a way where you're constantly chasing the other team, forcing them into awkward fights, can be a great hero. When you're behind and like your only real thing is that you have that utility of stealing damage, he doesn't really feel all of that sweet anymore.
Right, I agree with you completely. S4 there threw out a hook, almost caught Stompa, that would have actually, I think, triggered the possible high ground attempt from Alliance, but even without it, they have 2 outer towers, 4FC is down to, sorry, they have 3 outer towers, 4FC is down to 1. Roshan is very far away because they gave away the Aegis pretty fast, so it's still 5 minutes until they can get that. But as long as Alliance maintain the split push pressure, which Enchantress and Nature's Prophet are very capable of doing, I don't really see a way that 4FC is going to be able to farm up all 3 of their heroes that they actually need to get up. Ake, by the way, went straight for the Aghanims. Like, do not pass go, do not collect $200, just get your Aghanims.
Yeah, do not even finish your boots, just buy the regular brown boots and go to Ags. I was just looking at that as well and noticing that, yeah, they've just farmed so evenly on many heroes in this game, as Alliance often does, and it makes it so that their team fight is very powerful just by virtue of having all of these heroes with some items up. And now we're seeing that 4FC, they're kind of in a lot of trouble. Krilly had some treants summoned on him, but it doesn't look like they're actually going to go for a kill. And there's a lot of heroes from both teams currently hovering around this mid lane / Radiant Ancient camp.
They don't want Loda to steal their Ancients, but it's almost too late. It's quite fast with that Phase Boots active.
First hit
they get an entangle. Yeah.
Unfortunately, not committing to it, and yeah, I don't know even if they necessarily could. Krilly is the only one on his team that's particularly fast. He was the only one really close. The rest of his teammates were sort of far behind at that point, and that's why they don't end up running in for it. Now they're trying to chase down Bulldog, who looks like he might get away. They need to be able to get the vision on him, and they do with the plasma field from Razor, and so they get the lift. But here comes the hook up from Pudge, and it's going to kill off Stompa. The fight commences Gifting, taking a lot of damage. Looks like he's going to go down. S4 taking a lot of damage as well, so he's going to die off. EGM in some trouble now. There comes the borrow time. Surviving for a moment, and it looks like Loda went in, but now he's going to get entangled in the tower, taking a lot of damage. The Mist Coil, the Phoenix Shield, everything they have is going on him, trying to keep him alive, but he is going to go down in the end, and now EGM is on the retreat path with Aki. It looks like they're going to be able to get away. Aki trying to micro his creeps a little bit to block, but the bear is continuing to chase. EGM maybe in some trouble. It's possible he should have saved that shield in case he gets entangled.
Well, it's a pretty short cooldown. Bash! Can't do it while Bash!
Can't do it while Bash. Bash Lords.
Yeah, that was some serious RNGG from Krilly in that entire fight. He got some really, really excellent and timely procs from his Entangle and his Bash. So, yeah, actually, 4FC taking a big victory there. Alliance certainly showing their maybe decreased familiarity with this lineup that it's certainly an experimental lineup. They certainly have the room to run experimental lineups, and I'm glad they are. But you can just see there's a distance between this and, Chen, Nature's Prophet, Naga, even like keep PA, but TA or Puck or Quap or something.
Yeah, they have a lot of heroes on their team right now that they don't necessarily play with regularly in the matches that at least we've seen actual officials. Maybe they're running a lot of these heroes in scrims or just practicing them in general right now, but the strategy, it felt like it was going pretty well for a long time. They're doing a lot of aggression. They got farm all over the map on several of the heroes, but when you lose fights like that, it's pretty easy for the other teams to start coming back. And
sure,
I mean, we see that start being reflected in the Golden Experience graphs with them falling towards 4FC a little bit, but they're still pretty heavily in favor of Alliance. They still do have a lead here. And I guess the question becomes, do you think Alliance are going to take another fight like that behind a tower, sort of broken apart?
I think they'll be more careful, and I think they'll definitely try to get the next Roshan before they try to take a big set-piece fight. I think once they have the Aegis secured, they're in much better shape to take fights like that one. But honestly, yeah, I don't think 4FC are doing badly at all. Those last couple fights helped them immeasurably. Lone Druid now with the entirety of an Assault Cuirass. Okay, he's about 150 off, so he's very close. Blomberg on his Weaver rushed straight for the Monkey King bar after picking up the drums, which I think is a very inspired choice because of PA's innate ability to evade. You've got 3 auto attackers. So one of them's got to be able to reliably hit that Phantom Assassin, or she will just trump all of them. So the one that is doing the best, the 6-in-1 Weaver, is the one that picks up the MKB. And so already her evasion is nullified. I think that's a great pickup. Alliance, for their part, I mean, they've got the Aghanims on Enchantress, now moving towards Treads. Ake hasn't died this game, so he is a good source of damage. But other than that, yeah, I do think that they've sort of... 4FC has to some extent stabilized. Shivas might help for S4 as well. Maybe that's a good skill dipper.
Yeah, if he goes for the Shivas, it could be a pretty powerful item. It gives some additional magic AoE burst that they can rely on, as well as the slow that allows them to get in range. It looks like S4's hunting here with that invisibility rune. He's going to run into the entire team, though, if he goes for this, and they're actually smoked up. Do they have any reveal? There's dust.
They all got desmoked.
Yeah,
so they know he's...
actually had a dust. I think he could have popped that right as the smoke went off, but they weren't expecting someone to be invisible.
Maybe. 4FC, they did finish their Cuirass in time for this fight, so wow. Krilly runs all the way in.
Straight in. That's a pretty aggressive play from Krilly there, just to run straight into the Roche pit. But it looks like this is the way they're going to commit to this fight. They're just say, well, we want to go for Roshan. No, now they're backing off. All right. Not sure what they wanted to do there. Krilly was content to go in, maybe hoping they would try and do something about it, and maybe lure Alliance out into a big team fight. But now Alliance
I think they're trying to lure them, but instead they just end up dithering around the Radiant jungle, which I certainly don't like because it offers low-down opportunity. The more they dither, the worse this is, because Bulldog is going to be split pushing. You can see that there's already a set of treants, 2 range creeps, and a siege creep bashing on the... Oh, here they go again.
Yeah.
But if they just back off after this, which is what they're going to do, they're just going to run the risk of just getting Raxed. They waited too long. They're going to lose Roche. Like, they'll protect the Rax, but they've lost the Roshan.
Yeah, this is just completely standard Alliance play, realistically.
Yeah.
They do this all the time. They have Bulldog just split push that top lane on the Radiant side, and they just sit around Roshan and say, well, which one are you going to lose?
Alliance,
it always means you have to lose Roshan, because you're not going to lose Barracks. That's a much bigger, much more valuable target to really drop at this stage of the game.
Right. Alliance are basically unbeatable at Roshan. They are I feel entirely comfortable saying the best Roshan fighting team in the world. Part of that is their propensity for Nature's Prophet, who's a fantastic hero for Roche because he doesn't have to be at Roche to project control over Roche. Another part of that strategically is the fact that they always play Dire, and they value Dire higher than they value either first or second pick. So in TI3, they played Dire more than I think any other team did. And a big reason of that is the major advantages vis-a-vis Roshan that playing on the Dire side gives you. So I mean, Alliance, they know all the tricks, they know all the ways to approach the pit, the positioning. You really have to act extremely decisively to even have a chance, and I think 4FC cost themselves more than they gained with that pussyfooting around the Roshan pit.
Yeah, it feels like they had to commit one way or the other. They had to realize they were going to give up Roshan and just completely leave, or they had to actually commit to Roshan.
Radiant's
Probably
top
end up
tower
losing
is
their
under
tier 3
attack.
tower, if not their barracks as well. I think they make the right call in the end and go back, but they could have definitely prevented damage to that tier 3 tower if they had just
Or even
backed
killed
off.
Bulldog if they were clever
Also,
about it.
yeah, potentially. Instead, they just kind of got nothing. S4 gets a hook on Stompa, and that's going to be the death of Rubik. So it's a pretty big pick off to get. And that's kind of who they've been
They have caught
targeting a
us
lot.
for, but he's just gonna Shivas. I think this is actually a bad fight for 4FC.
BKB got a pop from Razor. Krilli's already taken a lot of damage. The impetus just flying out there, and Giftig now in a lot of trouble as well. Hook gonna fly and doesn't land on anything, and Krake is also gonna be in some trouble. Blomberg trapped in trees at the moment. The nature proper gonna fly through. Finishes off the Razor. Blomberg uses the time lapse, but it leaves him in the same place. He was stuck in trees for 4 seconds. He's gonna go down. That's a full team wipe. Alliance don't even commit that much necessarily. And now
They didn't lose Aegis. They used one BKB on Loda, his first BKB charge. They committed almost nothing. I agree with you completely, Kaz. It was bad positioning by 4FC. I mean, it started bad because that's what Pudge can do. Wow, is that a disconnect? Okay. Maybe just DC'd? I hope it didn't rage quit. That's kind of not classy for a stand-in. Either way, yeah, that's GG.
GG. Shots fired.
Radiant's middle tower has fallen.
Shots fired. Bulldog is so sassy lately.
He is. Bulldog is...
You win the international and you just can do whatever you want apparently.
That world championship money, making him sassy. But I mean, Bulldog, he wasn't held down this game. The thing is, him and Ake were quietly growing into these monstrous damage dealers, and that's what you saw in that last fight. All of a sudden, Nature's Prophet is critting as hard as Phantom Assassin. It's like, well, GG.
Yeah, I think that's one of the real strengths of Alliance is that they react on who gets the farm. If you're, working heavily on shutting down Loda, or Loda is just kind of going aggressive to try and distract you, they can always rely on Bulldog, Aki, S4, someone to be farming up. And that's what we saw in this game. They just had a couple other heroes besides sort of what you would expect their primary carry to be, who were getting big farm.
Yep. And what's next? Na'Vi? I think?
I believe it's Na'Vi versus 4FC next, if I remember correctly. Yeah, Na'Vi versus 4FC. So we'll get into that. Thanks, guys, for coming, and stick around for the